Call the meeting to order.
All right.
Do I have any comments from public? Any public here, okay? Any comments from the directors?
In the gallery.
Well, I do want to congratulate the Water Smart program because it notified me that I had a leak in my front yard. And
It's working.
it worked. Yeah, it really was. I was like, oh gosh.
I have a comment. I wanted to thank everybody for the wonderful orientation. It was excellent
Great.
and well done. And I thought it was handled very nicely.
Thank you.
Are there any adjustments?
Nothing from me.
Okay. Has everybody had a chance to review the consent agenda? If so, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, item number 10. Receive our regular SJR Woodlands Division report.
Usually in 20 minutes, okay.
Yeah, you know, I run a pretty fast meeting.
Meeting, I passed out a USB flash drive. That flash drive has on there not only all the information from the phase 1 and phase 2 of the wastewater strategic plan, basically the last 2.5 years of meeting minutes, agendas, everything else. Also has everything related to AC water lines, everything we have, everything we received. Also has the 10-year project plan as well as the 10-year project plan presentation that was presented in March of this year. Also finally has the contracts and all supplemental agreements between MUD 6 and the river. So a few thousand pages on there, but that's a lot of good reference information for everything that we're chatting about. So
Thank you.
that's all I had, unless you had any questions on anything.
Exactly what is the Sidney Allison Award?
So Cindy L. Allison, he was the Director of Public Works for the City of Corpus Christi a number of years ago. And he was an innovator with a lot of stuff to do with wastewater plants, mostly on the collection system side. So he set up a lot of auxiliaries, like women's auxiliaries and stuff like that, get more people involved and so on and so forth. So a consultant recommended me for it. And I had a lot of support. It was wrong external for it. And so I was awarded that. Is second to third week in April, Texas Water. So it's an accomplishment.
Is it only one recognized in the state every year?
Every year there's this one.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Wonderful.
Quick question, Chris, on page 17 of the financial, I know we didn't have financials last month with reporting. Anything on there's a fairly large variance on the operating revenues and then a fairly significant credit on the purchasing contracted services.
Correct. So two things with the financials. First is you'll notice that these are for April instead of May. We had the accounting software switch over, so this is from the old system. In July, you will have May and June's financials to catch up once the new system gets up. That difference that you see, that you pointed out under purchase and contract services, where it's negative basically 1.7. If you also look up operating revenues for about $3 million now, that's due to that GRP credit. So the GRP credited the Woodlands Division, and in turn, the Woodlands Division then credited the MUDs.
Item 11, receive an update on our,
Yes, ma'am. I have two things. Take the easy one first. Should be the easy one. Handed out a one sheet paper that looks like this. This is the update on the land acquisition for the water reclamation facility.
oh, thank you.
And so looking at it, the easy part is out of 17 tracks, we've completed surveys for 10. We've done, we're 10% complete on surveys. We're 20% complete on environmental site assessments. We're 65% complete on the landowner bill of rights, which is a document that we send to all of the landowners in advance of talking to them about an acquisition. We have done no appraisals and we've done no offers for purchase. So we're just barely getting started. Our goal is to give you one of these each month so you can monitor the progress. One of the directors yesterday asked that we add budget on there as to what the total budget is and how much has been spent to date, so that it gives you another indicator of where we are progress-wise. The tracks in blue are the ones we're acquiring first. The ones in green are the ones that we would like to acquire. One, if there's monies available, and two, if their price is reasonable. The green tracks are heavily in the floodplain floodway. They should not be too expensive, but we've seen some comps that show some properties in the floodplain are over $5 a square foot. Seems unbelievable.
Seriously.
What floodplain is it in? 100-year floodplain or 50-year floodplain?
100 and 500.
I'd imagine that'd be desirable, $5 per
Right.
foot.
So one more thing on this. If we do not acquire the green tracks and we do get all of the blue tracks along the top, we will have to realign Golden Road to come around to these green tracks so the road is not going through the middle of the plant site. An unexpected surprise. Any questions on land acquisition? All right, if you'll go to page 32, 33 of your packet. We've had a number of questions by directors prior to the election, since the election, and also even during the new MUD director orientation meeting a week and a half ago, to provide a better comparison between MBR technology and conventional. If you recall from almost 2 years ago, during phase one of the stakeholder process, we did not do an in-depth study of conventional because early on, the stakeholders said, we only want to look at MBR going forward. Remember, the stakeholders were made up of a representative from each MUD. We had Woodlands Water Agency present, we had the chamber present, we had Howard Hughes in play, we had somebody from the township. Thinking that's all we had there in the meeting. Also recall that only the MUD directors were voting. We were taking input from community members, but they did not have a vote on some of the priorities. So listening to the directors and knowing that we were not making any progress in going forward, we said, okay, we have the potential to delay 6-8 months and do an additional feasibility to get those answers. And so this document kind of gets to that additional evaluation. In that first dark bullet, the first item under there is replaced in place. There's been an interest of, okay, if we have to replace, can we do it within the current plant site? There are a lot of complications if you do a replace in place because you're trying to keep the plant operating and construct at the same time. And there's bound to be some hiccups and upsets during the process. Contractor may put his bucket in the ground and dig up a pipe or hit electrical and puts us out of business while we're still trying to operate the plant. Just conventional treatment, we're talking about the same type of treatment that we have now, but this evaluation will look at advantages and disadvantages of each of these 3 items, and then also offer options on how to go forward. The second part of it, the next dark bullet point, is project delivery methods. There's competitive sealed proposal, and there's construction manager at risk. Competitive sealed proposal is something we do day in and day out. It's similar to design bid build, but when the contractor submits his bid under the proposal side, his price is only worth 50% of the evaluation. He's got to be able to describe how he's going to prosecute the work. He's got to show that he's organized and has a pretty good command of the project. Under CMAR, a lot of school districts use that to deliver school buildings because it provides a guaranteed maximum price. And generally the schools are trying to deliver something quick and on a budget. Yes, we have a budget, but right now we're not under a deadline. We don't have an enforcement order or anything like that to force this. So we're looking at the two delivery methods. Again, we're looking at the advantages and disadvantages of each. The third, we do have a conceptual site layout for the MBR treatment, but we need a conceptual layout for both conventional on new property and conventional on the existing property. And so that we have something to make certain everything fits. The final bullet down at the bottom gets into the price, providing an estimated cost for all three options. They'll be updated. It will look at 50-year planning, 50-year horizon. So as looking at O&M going through that 50-year process, it includes, or it would include, changing pumps and mechanical and electrical at 20 and 25 years like you would normally. But it also looks at, here's what we think electrical and chemical and other costs would be. We do plan to give you an order of magnitude for rate impact, similar to what we did with the MBR. We're probably not going to get into a level of detail of plotting out charts or anything like that, but just say, okay, this has the potential to impact your rate X dollars per thousand or whatever. The final thing that we need to look at is evaluate manpower needs. We've got an engineering group. They are a certain size. We're not fully equipped and we don't have all of the expertise we need to manage a project like this. So we're going to have the consultant look at, okay, if we need to add manpower, if we add it internally, what type of person do we need and what type of technical expertise? And if we go with external and they'd be a sub-consultant, they would be also providing that description of what we would need, the number of hours, basic costs. So we're looking at what that financial impact is also to the project. So at the end, we would have total cost of the project that would include engineering, all the consulting that might be necessary, construction contingency, all the construction materials testing and activities that might occur during construction, along with land costs. It would have the same order of magnitude of estimating that the current MBR project has, which means it's at level 4 or 5, because this is still very conceptual, it's still very high level. So it could be as much of a 20% swing downward or 40% swing upward of the number given, but at least all three options would be compared equally. Several of the MUDs have asked for repair in place, going back to that list that was talked about by David Munn a month or so ago. We said if the trustees want to add in the repair in place with the other three options, we're happy to run the analysis, but the discussion would have to occur to include that. So 2 other quick things, and then we'll tell you what we need from you. We're proposing to do this with an independent consultant, someone that's not been involved in the process. It would not be Freeze Nichols. They've done a good job for us, but we've gotten the impression from comments made that a number of the directors would like to see it done by someone independent, someone that has not been involved through the process. And we have that capability. Final thing is the next item on the agenda, which talks about the supplemental agreement. We're asking the districts that have already voted to rescind that vote on the supplemental agreement because the exhibit of that document talks about MBR technology and we could end up with one of these other processes. So when you get to that item, that's what we're suggesting. So what are we asking of you today? What we're asking is that you talk among yourself, you ask your trustee, which would be Neil, who is not present today, give him direction on how you would like him to vote on your behalf regarding this additional feasibility work And whether to add in that fourth option to include a repair in place scope. So I'm open for questions. I tried to keep this short, but there's a lot going on.
To what extent were repair in place or replace in place considered in phase
The
one?
replace in place would be a whole new plant just in its current location. And it'd be a difficult project, but it would give you a comparison of how it would compare to cost of a new plant on new land. Because there is some question of, well, why not just replace in place? And repair in place would be similar to that list that you saw a month ago, where basically you are extending the life 10 or 15 years until it's absolutely necessary to replace everything.
Was considered in phase one to any extent?
They were briefly, but not to the same level the MBR was evaluated. So what this would do is bring those other three concepts up to the full level that the MBR will do.
We talked, 2 months ago about the cost to continue operation of the current facility based on delays. Is the duration of construction for these different options considered in that? Because there's obviously going to be some operational costs in the meantime if there's a difference in construction timeline.
Good question, Aaron. Nobody's actually brought that up. There has been, I think there's a general acknowledgement we would keep everything running, just the way we've done so far. So if the pump needs to be replaced or a blower needs to be replaced, we would do that or get it repaired. So there's been one director, maybe two, that have said that they didn't fully believe that presentation that David Munn did and the net present value that it brings to the discussion. And so that's part of why this is continuing on in a conceptual, an additional feasibility.
So with that in mind, is that something if we went with a different consultant, they'd be able to incorporate into that study?
We're hoping that the independent consultant would be able to alleviate anybody's doubts and misunderstandings of the information.
Got it. I know we still have different meetings to go. Is there a consensus that the recommendation would be accepted by most Americans if we go this route?
We've got 6 saying yes. And probably 2, no more than 3 saying they want to add the 4th repair in place option. I've got my numbers. I know the 6 is right. You're number 7.
Yeah, everyone has said yes to the base concept, with the exception that a couple are saying, well, we might adjust that to include that 4th option of the repair piece.
I think
Their
there's
thought-
one yesterday and one today.
Yeah, maybe, and probably several more, but the comments around that have been, well, based on the condition assessment that was done, there were certain apparatus that did have this much life and this much life. And so then in their minds, they're thinking we can pick that one apart, fix it, pick this one apart a few years later, fix it, and try to get 25 more years out of it. And, the conversation's kind of gone around some of the grandfathering of the design criteria and things like that. When you start messing with things, you start opening the door up for certain rules to change or actually to come up to speed with current rules, because it doesn't meet current design criteria right now. Certain pieces of it don't. So
Replacing a pump doesn't eliminate the grandfathering. Replacing a basin would invoke the newer rules, 217 rules versus 317.
I'm personally not excited about extending the life 15 to 25 years with a repair in place philosophy. That's just my opinion.
Agreed.
I agree with you.
The question is just, do we need it in the study for the rest of the months to accept the recommendation? Will they be accepting of any recommendation if that's not included?
So then, in essence, it forces our hand to say that we want to include the 4th. No, I'd like to just.
Which is kind of saying 6 of the muds that were leaning that way without repair in place, we'll have to review it again.
Well, or it just holds up the whole process if we don't all agree.
No, I mean, I think.
A couple giving caveats to their trustee to say, hey, if this really goes forward, okay, fine.
Okay.
Kind of, I mean, that's the kind of feel I was getting, saying.
Yeah, I don't think it would have to go back to the MUDs to give direction to the trustees. I think the trustees have got the flexibility. Again, this whole concept of having the MUDs give direction to the trustees is not a legal requirement. It's really just to make sure that the trustees go understanding what their board would like to have happen. But the trustee has discretion to act, so it doesn't have to come back to the MUDs.
So could we instruct our trustee that, we're in favor of as presented, and if it holds the whole process up, then add the fourth?
Makes sense.
I mean, that
That
would be
makes
my
sense to me.
recommendation.
How much would the scope of the study change in terms of timeframe or cost if we added this option?
Aaron, we don't have any prices. Been chided a little bit by a couple of months for that, but we didn't know if we would have a consensus to even go forward with the feasibility, so we haven't bothered a consultant to give us a proposal yet. It might 50,000, 60,000, it's hard to say at this point.
Just for that piece, not the whole study.
Just for that piece.
Is this on the July 10th trustee meeting? When do the trustees?
July.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Second Wednesday.
Okay. So we'll have to. How do we pass our recommendation to Neil then? That's
And
fine.
we're happy to sit down with Neil and go over this with him whenever he has a few minutes.
We're all in consensus with that, right?
Yep, I'll confirm that.
Okay,
That's all I got.
thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move on to item number 12. Consider an act on a previously approved supplemental agreement with SJRA for engineering of wastewater reclamation facility number 1. I can't talk this afternoon.
This would be to take action to rescind the previous approval of the supplemental agreement.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Dang it. Okay. Item 13. Receive and discuss the draft 2025 SJRA Woodlands Division budget. Aye.
As y'all know, I brought this to y'all last month to present, so I don't have anything new to present. There's no changes. But I am here if y'all have any questions, that y'all thought about.
We're budgeting 4% water loss, but the run rate's 4.5, 4.8. What do we?
No, I'll go ahead and take it because I did it. It's aggressive. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if 4% is realistic. I actually think it's 4.5, maybe closer to 5. But one thing I'm seeing is if you look at our financials every month, water sales is constantly higher than what's been budgeted at 5.5. And then when I look at a rolling 12, 24, 36 month of water loss, it's dipping down pretty good, consistent. And so rather than go like we did last year, where we saw about a 4.5 to a 5 and do a 5.5, this year we went ahead and went the opposite direction. Instead of putting 4.5 to 5, we just went ahead and did 4. And so it is aggressive. I'm hoping we hit it, but at the end of the day, if we don't, it's not a big swing. It's 50, maybe $100,000 difference at the end of the day. It's not major.
Any other questions on budget? Well, as y'all know, y'all director trustee in July. Be on the trustees meeting.
Okay, we'll instruct them to go ahead. Findings report?
Nothing to discuss under an open session.
Okay. General manager's report?
All right, good afternoon. Just a couple things. As was mentioned earlier, we did have a new director orientation, one on the 5th and the 10th. And I think that went very well. It was good. Appears to be received pretty well by all. And then SJ had one on the 7th as well to go over some of their things. So I think all of them went pretty well. One of the things that came out of the WWA one was an idea to maybe create a workshop series library of topics that would be open to all directors, that maybe that we could build internally, based on input from directors on topics that you think might be interesting, or you have a question about, or things like that. Because I'm always getting, 50 directors, and I hear a lot of information all the time. And then at certain times I start hearing groupings of the same thing, right? And so it'd be nice to kind of have a library of topics that we could kind of pull off and kind of do a little, not a mini version of the orientation, if you will, maybe not as long as, because the other thing is there's so much to learn, as you all know, and we can't do that in 2 hours or 3 hour orientation. You just can only hit the high notes. So that's something that we're going to try to create. I don't know the logistics of we're going to do quarterly or monthly or how that would really look, but we're going to. So if you have any ideas on topics or things you might want to learn more about, send it to me and start to develop some of the content.
Okay.
Want your attention to the back of the packet. We have a couple articles, one on the city of Conroe, PFAS, and then also I included a couple customer thank yous. We had several this month, and so always like to see those and like to share those when we have them. The only other item I have is to kick it over to John for the communications report.
Afternoon. Page 39 in your packet is your communications report for June. Page 1, I did provide you some material from the strategic plan. See our overarching goals there, top, and then what we're trying to accomplish in this third quarter, where the focus is on water conservation, June through August. On page 40, pleased to announce that we have we were provided a number of materials from Holloway, which is their infrastructure communications consultant. Those drafts have been reviewed, comments provided back to Holloway from the Public Education Committee. So key messaging pieces, community advisory group charter, expecting that the website will, dedicated website will be up and running probably the next 4 to 6 weeks or so. We are working on a way for Holloway to come in and present to you in person. So you guys can communicate directly on the process, ask any questions you might have about what they're doing. Of course, in the meantime, if you have questions on that process or anything, please give me a call. Happy to talk to you about it. Got some current marketing materials there below. And then one thing I did just want to highlight here at the bottom of page 41, those bill ads are actually flip-flop. The current ad is the orange one. That's on AutoPay and WaterSmart. But then highlighting the fact that next month's ad coming out at the end of June will be on CCR's Consumer Confidence Reports, Water Quality Reports. So those get mailed out by July 1 every year to every customer. We then post those online. They live online year-round, and we will message that as best we can through social media, through emails, and so forth, so folks are aware of those water quality reports and are taking a look at them. So with that, any questions?
John, this isn't referred to in the general manager's report, but it's going to go back to you anyways. I think on the Wise Guys, that program is at least 10 years old, and it looks like it might need some rejuvenation. Just visibility, activity. I know there's only 2 people that are authorized now as Wise Guys. There used to be 6, 8, or 10. Is there a really need for catch people attention again and offer that program or re-offer it?
So absolutely, we want to keep that the community well aware of that program. We do put effort into advertising that. That's a periodic post in the Woodlands Water Weekly. We've done social media.
Doesn't seem to be much interest anymore. Like it's
Oh yeah.
there's only like 17 in value valuation. Now there used to be like a backup of over 100, and so it just seems.
Mike,
Yeah, they're licensed ones. We only have 2. Got enough to keep 2 busy.
Okay.
There are other guys that are licensed if we do get an influx.
That you could tap into.
We do, yeah. We can call
I know that at times they will have a 3 to 4 week, maybe even longer backlog. But I suppose that is something we could consider if there's need to add to that.
Anybody that comes in for an adjustment, leak adjustment, we require them to get a local MISCA inspection if they have an irrigation system.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Well, that's good. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I learned something new today.
As you're talking to folks about the program, it's available to every customer, and I can do it once every 5 years.
Oh, I didn't know that. You could get another one after 5 years.
Yeah, you can get one after 5 years.
Well, that's something worth reminding
And
people.
and
of.
it is a fantastic program. If you haven't
I
done
agree.
it,
Yeah.
I advise you to.
One of the two
They
that are
have a very
approved, my guy
thorough.
takes care of the stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Trustees report, I guess we have it in our agenda here, so.
Well, Brad, the full report there, the main item was the proposal from SJ on the treatment plant.
So is there a need to, there is, okay. We are going to recess to close session to consult with our district attorneys pursuant to section 551.071, the Texas Government Code, or to discuss personnel matters pursuant to section 551.074, Texas Governmental Code. Thank you.